back.
Tonight we're going to talk about haunted video games and haunted video game creepypastas. Dylan showed us a video earlier that we will definitely cut in about.
Yeah, for our YouTube's exclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us more about that,
Yeah.
Dylan. That
What's the
freaked me out.
context
I'm going to have
behind it,
spooky dreams,
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah, so I found that video, and there's a link down in the description. I found that video, I think, like, at this point, it was, like, 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been on the internet for a minute, and this guy was just, like, hanging around on, like a video game that he used to play a lot, and I can't tell you what the name of the game is. I have no idea. But, you know, it looks like he brought up, like, Second Life and stuff.
Yeah,
so it
yeah.
feels like a fantasy-style Second Life.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's the equivalent of, like, I feel like early World of Warcraft sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Probably.
EverQuest or whatever. Stuff
Yeah,
like that.
it was probably some competing game with those two. It feels like that mixed with, like, RuneScape or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was hanging out on that game, and essentially, you know, he found an old server that was, like, before it shut down or whatever, and he was just, like, hanging out in the server, just, like, walking around. And, you know, like, if you go in any old servers somehow like that haven't been updated or anything, like, stuff's super glitchy. So
Yeah.
the whole game was very glitchy, and, you know, there was animals that were just, like, phased into the ground and stuff,
Yeah.
and he was just, like, looking around and, you know, found someone else in the server. And I think the idea of it is so creepy, because, look, you can watch this video and be like, this is BS, like, the whole thing is
Yeah,
fake.
like, it's a whole thing, yeah.
And from what like little research I did when I first saw it, or the second time I watched it, because it showed Camille, and we were both like, every time I watch it, I get like, I get geezed out, like,
Yeah,
I just can't. I looked it up and I was just like, was this fake? And, like, no one came out and was like, this is for sure fake.
Yeah.
Like, I've not found any evidence to prove that this is fake. But you can still just say it's fake.
Yeah.
I get that. But if you want to live a fun life and you say that this is real,
Yeah.
If you suspend disbelief,
if you
as they say.
suspend disbelief, then, you know, like, this guy went into a game and an NPC,
Yeah.
like, if you think about it, and there's, like, all of this tech, there's all of this data that's, like, running constantly, and there's no outside forces anymore. It's essentially, in my head, it's like the whole, like, what is it, like, the theory of God, where he set it all up and then just, like, walked away and just let it do its thing. That's what dead servers feel like to me.
That's
where, like,
creepy.
if you think about it, you know, if you believe in any religion, any creator,
If we're, like, in an episode of, or in, like, a Sims game or something like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
but, like, anyone who made those games and made that data, made those characters, made all the everything, like, you are now, for all intents and purposes, God of this. You've made all this. And now you have backed away and you've let this just run.
Yeah.
And if it gets chaotic and crashes, then it gets chaotic and it crashes. And that's what we see in this video game.
Yeah.
And then if you think about it, like, the only way that we know that it crashes is if we look at it.
Yeah.
If we tamper with the data, if we open it up.
Yeah.
Then we're like, oh, well, this has crashed. Or like, well, was it the whole time?
Yeah.
Like,
if it is, like, beyond a ghost or whatever, but if it's, like, AI, and it's, like, essentially machine learning, like, it's just, like, and it has the time to just run and learn things and, like, be quasi-sentient or whatever, like, not fully sentient, but, like, it's, like, it's running a script, it learns different paths on that script, and then it just learns to, like, think for itself.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because if you, like, I think a fun way to think about it, and all of this is just like, here's a fun way to think about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
If a computer runs the same line of script like 10 times, it'll be the same. 100 times, it'll probably be the same. But like 30 billion times, like maybe it hits another key, like maybe another input happens. And then that happens enough to where it's like, yeah, it's like a giant, huge game of the smartest telephone that could happen.
Yeah.
Wow.
And now this NPC or this character in the game is now like sentient in a way, but it's still running on the same script where it's like, I'm in this Second Life fantasy world. I speak like a Second Life fantasy person.
Yeah.
Because it's
Weird.
all that I know.
Yeah.
And also because it's taking in the input from when people played that game.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has the like
The data's there.
again, you know.
Yeah.
If you like believe in certain religions and
Yeah.
stuff, we've been given this data.
Mm.
This is all the data we have.
Yeah.
So no one's gonna come in with like a humanoid body, tentacle face, and wings, and us be like, for sure, this
Yeah.
is like how it goes. Like, no, this is off script.
Yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
very different thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so maybe the whole server was running just fine in the grand scheme of things, like whatever that would be, until somebody enters in to this server.
Yeah.
Mm.
And now the thing has crashed because it's not used to anything else being here. So you
That's so
like
creepy
you
to
bring
think
in,
about.
and then that's why everything's crashed. That's
Yeah.
why, you know. But before, this AI was just like running around and like everything else was still working, which
Yeah.
is why it has the ability to open up those gates when a real life person playing the game doesn't have that ability.
Yeah.
Like you have to accomplish a certain task for the gates to open, just like every other game that we've ever
Yeah.
played.
Yeah.
This has to happen for this to happen.
Yeah.
And that's the fun way of thinking about it. The other way is, well, yeah, somebody definitely like hacked this like
Yeah.
game from
Like, 'cause
'94, and
Yeah. This guy was, he said it was Pine Sauce or whatever. Yeah, he was streaming it. So, like, somebody totally could have, like, stream sniped it and, like, figured out what game it was, found the server he was in, and just went in,
Yeah.
like, same game.
Yeah.
Like, that's
But
totally
but then he would have
plausible.
also
Not impossible.
had to.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
But he would have also had to have like hacked it before,
Yeah.
because you can't
Yeah.
just like
Yeah, true.
And then gone through the challenges to get,
Yeah.
the credentials to get through the gate.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the full context of the video or that game, but my original thought is he was streaming the game. Maybe an old dev of that game saw that it was being streamed,
yeah.
still had access to the game, and like just logged in just to mess with him or whatever.
That's a really fun
It's the
way
only
to think about
it's the
it.
only logical
Yeah.
explanation for it,
For sure.
but
It is, and that's
Yeah.
a very low. I mean,
Yeah.
that could just be what it is.
Yeah. Sure.
Which is still like, how fun is that?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how cool would
Yeah,
that
because
be?
the initial thing was like he thought it was an NPC. It reacted like an NPC, and then like further on, it was like, oh, this might be like a person or something in the game.
Yeah, or something else.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Which
Gotcha.
is so cool.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah.
It's a weird, cool experience.
so ghost in a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, like, that concept, like old media, there's something wrong, like a video game, for instance. That is like a common like creepypasta kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
where like stories center around like there's this fascination with old games that you can't play anymore, and
Yeah.
like there's something weird about it, or you go back and visit it, like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't remember this being like this or whatever.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, I know. I mean, just from the few stories that I read.
yeah,
But off camera earlier, we were kind of talking about this, and the first thing that comes to mind for me, and this is my limited amount of knowledge on video games and stuff like you guys, so I'm just gonna hang out and listen and learn. But like Wreck-It Ralph, when they they're arcade games, but they're characters in the game and they're alive. They have jobs and they have to play these parts, and sometimes and then at night they have the day off, or they have the night off, so they go and hang out with their friends and other video games. And if for some reason the game starts glitching or something like that, or it goes turbo, then the game gets unplugged for good, and then those characters in the game, they don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
So they have to go and live in another video game and just hide off screen or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's weird to think that these NPCs might be artificial
living,
intelligent,
might
might
have
be living
lives.
and might
Yeah.
have feelings,
Mhm.
but they're playing a part, even though they're just zeros and ones and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And
Yeah.
also, if we were to say like that as a concept for a movie, Free Guy, have you seen it?
Oh,
I haven't
yeah.
seen it.
It's
no.
really good.
Is it?
Yeah,
No.
but Guy
It's
is
really
he's
fun.
blue shirt guy, and he's just an NPC. He's in the background, and he lives his everyday life in this
Mhm.
video game, very similar to Grand Theft Auto.
Mm.
And at some point, he's like, "Well, what's the point of life?" And he has this question. He's like, "What if I just do something different today?"
Mhm.
And he does, and then like something different happens. He's like, "Oh," and then
Yeah.
the next day he does something even more different. And then at some point, he's basically a character.
And now he's a player character.
A player
Yeah.
character,
Yeah.
and everyone's
Yeah.
like, "Who's Blue Shirt Guy?
At
Who
one
is
point
this guy?"
in the plot, the player characters, like the actual people, they have these glasses that give them access to the game or whatever.
Yeah.
He discovers like a pair of glasses, puts them on, and he sees like the world as a video game, like
Mhm.
how regular or real people see it,
Mhm.
and he just becomes a character and like starts
Yeah.
interacting with stuff, and
Yeah.
people are like, oh, this guy's alive, like it's
Yeah.
a real person or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and then not to really spoil it, but he basically comes alive, and you find out that the game code was written for a different game,
Mhm.
and the bad guy or whatever, the main video game developer, just stole the code and basically just made it a different game, but he basically created AI in the process.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's a fascinating
That's
concept.
cool.
Really good movie, really
Yeah.
heartwarming.
Yeah.
But the idea of that being real is, I never even considered that being like a real thing. But like
Yeah.
watching that, it's really creepy. That might be actual evidence of a ghost in a video game, or
Yeah.
AI realizing like, am I alive? Am I
Yeah.
am I
Yeah.
alive? Please tell me that I'm alive. It's like,
Yeah.
ugh,
Ugh.
sorry, man, you're not.
Well,
Unfortunately.
And the whole question can get real big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our brains have been described as like supercomputers, and it's all data. I mean, it's all
Yeah.
input
Yeah.
data.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
that we see, taste, touch, like,
Yeah.
it all gets input into this
It's just
computer
neurons firing in your brain.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, the further we look into the future, the more this question gets brought up, where, like, I don't know, Elon Musk, as much as I couldn't
Oh,
care
yeah.
less about the
Sure.
dude, is like, I'll have an implant for people's brains by
Neuralink.
next year, like a
Mhm.
Neuralink,
Mm-hmm.
where you can just like full dive into video games. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, well then now,
Mm.
if you Neuralink into a game that like, and then the servers stop, like,
You die in the game, you die in real life.
like, yeah, but it's like, dude, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
like,
he said that he's gonna be the first one to get it. So even if
Yeah.
there's not like human trials, he's gonna put it in his brain
Mm.
right.
and be the first person. Like basically, like he's gonna be like jujitsu. I know jujitsu. He's gonna be the real life Neo.
Yeah.
So
Pass.
Yeah.
you're
Yeah,
not down for
we
that?
shouldn't.
No.
We shouldn't give it to that guy.
No.
That-
Give it to him. He's gonna do it himself.
I know, but-
we have nothing. We have no say in this.
Yeah, you're right.
And he's gonna be basically upgrade, man. I'm telling you.
Man.
That's gonna be him for
Yeah.
real, and he's gonna be the internet, and the internet's gonna be him. It's gonna flow
Mhm.
through his
I
fingers.
just can't think of that. I just don't want to think of that happening. Especially with like the only picture of him that's like fully ingrained in my head is like him being high, and it's just like, God, what a
Yeah.
boob, dude.
Yeah.
This guy is such a goober. Like,
Yeah. I think he just wants to be cool so bad.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
That's the thing. Like,
if you didn't try so much, it's
Yeah.
like, hey, dude,
That's the
just
thing, he
be
tries so
smart.
hard.
Yeah.
Just like,
Just be a smart guy,
just-
you know.
yeah.
I mean, he's not a smart guy. He's just a rich dude who invested in smart things, and then he
Yeah.
thinks he's smart. Yeah.
I don't know. I might disagree with that. I mean, just hearing his conversations, like I don't think that he's putting on this facade of being like way smarter than everybody, so he has to speak slower and words that we understand and stuff like that. I truly think that he is a genius cursed with a brain that never stops working. You know, I don't think he gets much sleep. I think that he's always dreaming and thinking of the next thing, you know.
Yeah.
Because what he's done with SpaceX. I mean,
that's
you may
another
say,
thing
he might just be
admirable about him to me is the SpaceX stuff. Like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, it's an advancement in rocket propulsion and like reusing.
Yeah,
you know,
he
capsules
did
and-
what
yeah.
NASA
Exactly.
could never do.
Yeah.
And he gave that idea to NASA, and they're like, no, that's not
Yeah.
going to work. And he's like, I'll do it myself. And he did it and
And
failed
now
multiple
he's-
times.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
now, I mean, with Tesla and
I think
stuff
that-
like that, I don't know, man. I think that he is smart. I think he is just too smart for his own good. And
Yeah.
but I think he just tries too hard to be cool.
Yeah.
Well, not to make this the Musk minute or anything, but I think the last thing that I read about, like, the engine that they're making, where you can go to Mars in like 4 hours, because it's
Ooh.
based off of what is the thing that smashes
Hadron Collider.
yeah, the Hadron Collider. That is what that is what provides the propulsion. And so it's like clean, you know? There's no gas, like there's no like
Yeah.
fuel. It's just that.
Yeah.
And so it can like just go it essentially is an engine that breaks physics
Wow.
as we know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why it's all, you know, theories and stuff, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing that I think that people like, you know, who want to bring up pseudoscience and stuff forget about, it's like, well, this can work because it breaks this. It's like, yeah, it's a theory though,
Yeah.
right? It's like,
Yeah.
It's untested and like
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing about the Hadron Collider. Like, people are like, you know, there's conspiracy theories about it, and people are freaked out, and like, you know, because it happened in the first test, I think, happened in 2012, and people like, oh yeah, since they first ran or split the smashed whatever the electrons or whatever. Ever since that happened, like everything's gone downhill, and then like split the universe or
Or
whatever.
the darkest timeline.
Yeah.
Split the timeline or whatever.
well, there's also like the Shiva statue, like at the outside of the complex. It does. I can't remember what it's called, but there was a really funny, what looked like a fun hoax thing where it's like there is that statue. And people thought that it was like a big cult thing, and then a bunch of people thought it'd be really funny to like lean into that. And there's a picture of them in like white cloaks, like people that worked there,
Oh my
doing
gosh.
like a fake ceremony thing.
Yeah.
And then it was like, guys, probably not a good
Too real,
idea,
too real.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
Before we dive into the story, Orrin, going back to Neuralink,
Yeah.
would either of you guys get
No.
Neuralink?
No.
What's essentially the concept? Like, you just
You can full dive, dude.
It's
you,
like
have
you're
you
like
watched
the
Sword
Matrix.
Art
You
Online?
basically, yeah, but well, not just like you go into the metaverse or anything like
Yeah.
that, but it's like you actually have control of your body and of your brain, of memories and stuff like that.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
my dad said he would get it as soon as it comes out
Mhm.
because, like, he forgets
Because it
things.
just accesses like whatever.
Yeah,
secret
exactly.
parts of your brain or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Well, not even just that,
Well,
but like
yeah.
you can function again, like a normal human being. You know, it's like you're 20
Mhm.
again.
But
Your brain is
at
just
what's
working.
that cost though, man?
Yeah.
Who
like,
knows?
Because
We
like
don't know.
the cost of you having an iPhone is Apple knowing everything about you.
That is very true.
So you having
Yeah,
a
right.
Neuralink,
Having
is,
having this
having
thing from a
access-
company.
So
in
you're
your
not having
brain.
any private thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is essentially
That's-
cyberpunk stuff.
Yeah, it's cyberpunk stuff
Yeah.
and it is thought police stuff.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like, okay, for instance, if you say you commit a crime, right? Well, there is that, after 10 years,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you can't be like prosecuted for that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, is that the case still if they can access the memory of you committing
Yeah.
that crime?
Yeah.
Because
Wow, I
it's
never even
there.
thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's, dude. I just don't. I don't trust it.
Mhm.
It would be
Mhm.
really cool if humans didn't make it, and
Yeah.
if humans didn't have control over it.
Yeah,
If
that's
we
true.
made it, and then we gave it to like an AI, which is also a scary thing
Yeah.
to think.
Yeah.
Then it's like, well, because once AI gets it, and it's like, oh well, the humans are the problem.
Yeah.
Because most people, like, I mean, if us interacting with the planet, it's like,
Yeah.
we're the bad guys here,
Yeah,
probably.
'cause, like, what's the thing, the Minority Report thing, like stopping crime before it happens, but like you give up like a lot of your privacy or whatever. Like, is that worth it? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
delving into like your corporations having access to this stuff, like the thing with like whenever there's like mass shootings or whatever, they look at the shooter and like they go through his stuff, and like Facebook has access to that data. Like they can just give that to the police. Like Facebook has your data too, like everybody's data. And, like it's just if anybody asks, like police or whatever, they can have it. Like it's just stuff like that.
A lot of times they don't even have to ask, because you just like can go to somebody's Facebook and they've already put it there. Like it's people are silly. You know. We've signed away a lot of stuff without really knowing about it.
Yeah,
it's
just
like,
accepting terms and policies.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, a new one. I'm not even gonna read this because I just want to sign on right now. I do that.
It's
all
the whole
time.
thing. It's like, I just
Everyone
want to
does.
use my phone. Can I just? I'm just gonna press everything and use my phone now. And it's like, dude.
I'm sure it's fine. Literally, all of this is the plot to Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline, which generally is a hated book by everybody. I enjoyed it because of the thought alone of, like, you basically, like, I don't remember how you, like, sign in to the Oasis or whatever, but, like, your brain is fully in it. It's not just, like, an immersive VR rig.
That's the evolution of the second book. Okay,
Exactly. It's a really good concept. And, of course, like, there's an AI character who sucks everybody into the game, and if you try to sign off, you die. And so the good guys have to figure out how to beat the bad guy, beat the big bad AI. Really good concept. I like that. I like it a lot. I thought they pulled it off pretty well in the book. It was a good follow-up. My brother hated it, and whatever. I'll go through and read it every other year.
Did you guys watch Sword Art Online?
I watched the first season.
Yeah.
Like 6 years ago.
Yeah. The second
really good
season,
concept, but it was just like...
I was super good on the second season. Really, I loved the first season.
Yeah. It's just a great concept.
But also, I hadn't read Ready Player 2.
Well, Ready Player 2 came out, I think, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago at this point.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's 2020.
What a rip. That's like...
Well, Ready Player 1 came out in, like, 2012.
Yeah.
So it was before Sword Art Online. But it's not a complete original concept
that's
anyway.
The Matrix.
Yeah, exactly. It's just all a different way to tell. And The Matrix apparently was a rip-off of something else.
Oh, really?
So, somebody said it was completely plagiarized.
Oh, gotcha.
Which I don't know if that's real or not, but
I would say that too if it was The Matrix.
Oh,
you know,
because
like
William Gibson, Neuromancer, stuff like that. That was all 80s, like cyberpunk stuff.
Yeah. It's all cool.
Yeah,
like, cyberpunk stuff is so cool.
Yeah, totally.
And there's a part of me that's like, absolutely, I wouldn't do it. And then there's another part of me that's like, or I could like full dive into it, and like then maybe one day be a computer and never die. It's just like that kind of sounds cool too. Maybe I don't know.
I've always said I'd be cool with just having like a robot body, like my brain put into like a android or whatever.
Yeah, it's like my lungs are going out. I guess I gotta go up the street or go on Amazon and order some lungs to plug and play the rest of my life away. It's fine.
Full on upgrade, put a gun in your hand and reload it with bullets or whatever.
It's awesome.
That was the coolest part of that movie to me. Yeah. Dudes with like guns in their hands.
Okay, so going back to the concept of ghosts and video games, I remember when I was a kid, and it was before you can play video games on the internet. Actually, you could play video games on the internet, on PC, but like, PlayStation and Xbox. It was before Xbox Live or anything like that.
Yeah.
But we would play System Link a lot, and sometimes I would just log in and just like hope that like another player would join my game, just because it's like, maybe it'll happen this time. Maybe it'll happen this time. Or like, maybe if I select this level, like something different will happen this time. And just like really hoping that it would, or when I was a kid playing Tekken, I was like, what if this isn't a computer playing? What if I'm just playing some kid in China, and like he's trying to beat me, I'm trying to beat him,
No, that's all it is.
Yeah, that's what I thought. The AI actually, I was like, that's got to be it. There's no way it's a computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Orrin, Take it away.
And so tonight we're going to read, going back to the concept of old media, a game you played forever ago. I'm going to read the Ben Drown creepypasta. Ben Drown is based around the video game Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Let's see.
I feel like I've heard this, but I don't know if I have.
You probably have.
Yeah.
It's
I did
pretty
maybe
popular.
years ago, but I
Yeah.
really don't remember anything about it except for
Yeah.
that it just left me feeling icky.
Mm-hmm.
Gross.
Gross.
Yeah.
The story revolves around a Majora's Mask cartridge that is haunted by the ghost, if it is a ghost, of a boy named Ben, and the protagonist of the story finds it in like a garage sale. But I'll get into that as soon as I start.
Whack.
Yeah.
That stinks.
Mm.
You're like super stoked. You like found it. And you're like, Mom. And then
It's
she's
like
yeah,
Majora's
sure.
Mask for $5, and like, oh,
Yeah.
it's haunted.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Now my soul is given to the devil. Cool.
Okay, I need your help with this. This is not Creepypasta, this is a long read, but I feel like my safety or well-being could very well depend on this. This is video game related, specifically Majora's Mask, and this is the creepiest crap that has happened to me in my entire life. Having said that, I recently moved into my dorm room starting as a sophomore in college, and a friend of mine gave me his old Nintendo 64 to play. I was stoked to say the least. I could finally play all those old games of my youth that I hadn't touched in at least a decade. His N64 came with a one yellow controller and a rather shoddy copy of Super Smash Bros. And while beggars can't be choosers, needless to say, it didn't take long until I became bored of beating up level 9 CPUs. That weekend, I decided to drive around a few neighborhoods about 20 minutes or so off campus, hitting up the local garage sales, hoping to score on some good deals from ignorant parents.
Rude.
Jeez.
I ended up picking a copy of Pokemon Stadium, GoldenEye, F-Zero, and 2 other controllers for $2.
Okay, here's the thing.
That's a steal.
I already don't believe this.
Yeah, right?
Just
No
for
way.
$2.
Everybody knows what GoldenEye is.
Yeah, dude, no way you got all 3 of those,
Yeah,
dude.
right.
No way.
$2.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Satisfied, I began to drive out of the neighborhood when one last house caught my attention. I still have no idea why it did. There were no cars there, and only one table was set up with random junk on it. But something sort of drew me there. I usually trust my gut on these things, so I got out of the car and I was greeted by an old man. His outward appearance was, for lack of a better word, displeasing. It was odd. If you asked me to tell you why I thought he was displeasing, I couldn't really pinpoint anything. There was just something about him that put me on edge. I can't explain it. All I can tell you is that if it wasn't in the middle of the afternoon and there were other people within shouting distance, I would not have even thought of approaching this man.
You're just scared of old people.
Yeah, old people are just, that's just old people.
Gross. Again. Ew, do you see your wrinkles, sir? Sorry.
Here's skin cream for that.
Oh my gosh. You should move to Florida. A different episode.
Yeah. Call back. He flashed a crooked smile at me and asked what I was looking for, and immediately I noticed that he must be blind in one of his eyes. His right eye had that glazed over look about it. I forced myself to look to his left eye instead, trying not to offend, and asked him if he had any old video games. I was already wondering how I could politely excuse myself from the situation when he would tell me that he had no idea what a video game was. But to my surprise, he had had a few in an old box. Bless you.
You're welcome. I mean, thank you.
He assured me he'd be back in a jiffy and turned to head back into the garage. And as I watched him hobble away, I couldn't help but notice that what he was selling on his table. Littered across his table were rather peculiar paintings, various artworks that looked like ink blots that a psychiatrist might show you. Curious, I looked through them. It was obvious why no one was visiting this guy's garage sale. They weren't exactly aesthetically pleasing. As I came to the last one, for some reason it looked almost like Majora's Mask, the same heart-shaped body with little spikes protruding outward. Initially, I just thought that since I was secretly hoping to find that game at these garage sales, some Freudian BS was projecting itself into the ink blots. But given the events that happened afterward, I'm not so sure now. I should have asked the man about it. I wish I would have asked the man about it. After staring at the Majora-shaped blot, I looked up and the old man was suddenly there again, arms linked in front of me, smiling at me. I'll admit I jumped out of reflex and I laughed nervously as he handed me an N64 cartridge. It was the standard gray color, except that someone had written Majora on it in black permanent marker. I got butterflies in my stomach as I realized what a coincidence this was, and I asked him how much he wanted for it. The old man smiled at me and told me that I could have it for free, that it used to belong to a kid who was about my age that didn't live here anymore. There was something weird about how the man phrased that, but I didn't really pay any attention to then. I was too caught up in not only finding this game, but getting it for free. I reminded myself to be a bit skeptical since this looked like a pretty shady cartridge, and there's no guarantee it would work. But then the optimist inside me interjected that maybe it was some kind of beta version or pirated version of the game, and that was all I needed to be back on Cloud 9. I thanked the man, and the man smiled at me and wished me well, saying, "Goodbye then." At least that's what it sounded like to me. All the way in the car ride home, I had a nagging doubt that the man had said something else. My fears were confirmed when I booted up the game. To my surprise, it worked just fine. And there was one save file named simply Ben. "Goodbye, Ben," he was saying. "Goodbye, Ben." I felt bad for the man, obviously a grandparent, obviously going senile,
Weird.
and I, for some reason or another, reminded him of his grandson, Ben.
Oof. Don't like that.
Out of curiosity, I looked at the save file. Eyeballing it, I could tell that he was pretty far in the game. He had almost all of the masks and 3/4 remains of the bosses. I noticed that he had used an owl statue to save his game. He was on day 3 and by the Stone Tower Temple with hardly an hour left before the moon crash. A little context about the game, Majora's Mask. You're kind of like on a timetable to beat the game. So like events happen like by days, and I think 5 days. In 5 days in the game, the moon crashes into the planet and game over, whatever. And you have to save the world before the moon crashes in it.
Gotcha.
Let's see.
Such a creepy thing to happen.
Yeah.
Also, I've never been a huge Zelda fan, just because when I was a kid, I was just not smart enough to play the games, and I didn't have any of the... Those were the games that was like, you had to ask your parents to buy it for you, and you had to ask for the like booklet, essentially. And just
that was the first thing, because my first Zelda was Ocarina of Time. I just ran around, and that was fun. And then I had the book for it. I was like, oh, you're supposed to play it this way and play it like in sequence or whatever.
Right.
You know?
I can't imagine playing a game when I was a kid that's like, you could play the game for like hours and hours and hours and hours.
And you're playing it wrong.
And you're playing it wrong, and then like day 5 comes around and just game over, and you're like, what? It's like, start over, bro.
Oh, that sucks.
Let's see. I remember thinking that it was a shame that he had come so close to beating the game, but he never finished it. I made a new file named Link out of tradition and started the game, ready to relive my childhood. For such a shady-looking game cartridge, I was impressed at how smoothly it ran. Literally just like a retail copy of the game, save for a few minor hiccups here and there. Like textures being where they shouldn't be, random flashes of cutscenes at odd intervals, but nothing too bad. However, the only thing that was a little unnerving was that at times the NPCs would call me Link, and at other times they would call me Ben.
Ooh.
I figured it was just a bug, a fluke in the programming causing our files to get mixed up or something. It did kind of creep me out, though, after a while, and it was around after I had beaten the Woodfall Temple that I regrettably went into the save files and deleted Ben.
Ooh.
I had intended to preserve the file just out of respect of the game's original owner. It's not like I needed 2 files anyway. Hoping that was in parentheses, close parentheses, hoping that would solve the problem. It did, and it didn't. Now NPCs wouldn't call me anything. Where my name should be in the dialogue, there was just a blank space. My save file name was still called Link, though. Frustrated and with homework to do, I put the game down for a day. I started playing the game again last night, getting the Lens of Truth and working my way towards completing the Snowhead Temple. Now some of you more hardcore Majora's Mask players know about the 4th day glitch. For those who don't, you can Google it, but the gist of it is that right as the clock is about to hit 000 on the final day, you talk to the astronomer and look through a telescope. If you time it right, the countdown disappears and you essentially have another day to finish whatever you were doing. Deciding to do the glitch to try and finish the Snowhead Temple, I happened to get it right on the first try, and the time counter at the bottom disappeared. However, when I pressed B to exit the telescope, instead of being greeted by the astronomer, I found myself in the Majora boss fight room at the end of the game, staring at Skull Kid hovering above me. There was no sound, just him floating in the air above me, and the background music, which was regular for the area. Immediately my palms began to sweat. This was definitely not normal. Skull Kid never appeared here. I tried moving around the area, and no matter where I went, Skull Kid would always be facing me, looking at me, not saying anything. Nothing would happen though, and this kept up for around 60 seconds. I thought the game had bugged or something, but I was beginning to doubt that very much. I was about to reach for the reset button when text appeared on my screen. You're not sure why, but you apparently had a reservation. I instantly recognized that text. You get that message when you get the room key from Anju at the Stockpot Inn, but why was it playing here? I refused to entertain the notion that it was almost as if the game was trying to communicate with me. I started to navigate the room again, testing to see if there was some sort of trigger that would enable me to interact with something here. Then I realized how stupid I was. To even think that someone could reprogram the game like this was absurd. Sure enough, 15 seconds later, another message appeared on the screen, and again, like the first one, it was already a pre-existing phrase. Go to the lair of the temple's boss. Yes/no. I paused for a second, contemplating what I should press and how the game would react, when I realized that I couldn't select no. Taking a deep breath, I pressed yes, and the screen faded to white, with the words, Dawn of a New Day, with the subtext blank beneath it. Where I was ported to filled me with the most intense sense of dread and impending fear I'd ever experienced. The only way I can describe the way I felt here is having this feeling of inexplicable depression on a profound scale. I am normally not a depressed person, but the way I felt here was a feeling that I didn't even knew existed. It was such a twisted, powerful presence that seemed to wash over me. I appeared in some kind of weird Twilight Zone version of Clocktown. I walked out of the clock tower, as you normally do when you start from day one, only to find that all the inhabitants were gone. Usually with the 4th day glitch, you can still find the guards and the dog that runs around outside the tower. This time they were all gone. What replaced them was an ominous feeling that there was something out there, in the same area as me, and that it was watching me. I had 4 hearts to my name and the hero's bow, but at this point I wasn't even considered for my avatar. I don't think that should be concerned. I wasn't even concerned for my avatar. I felt that I personally was in some kind of danger. Perhaps the most chilling thing was the music. It was the Song of Healing, ripped straight from the game itself, but played in reverse.
Oof. No. No.
The music would get louder, building up so as if you should expect something to pop out at you, but nothing ever did. And the constant loop began to wear on my mental state. Every now and then I would hear the faint laugh of the happy mask salesman in the background. Just quiet enough so that I wasn't sure if I was just hearing things, but just loud enough to keep me determined to find him. I looked in all 4 zones of Clocktown only to find nothing. No one. Textures were missing. West Clocktown had me walking on air. The entire area felt broken. Hopelessly broken. As the reverse Song of Healing repeated for what must have been the 50th time, I just remember standing in the middle of South Clocktown, realizing that I had never felt so alone in a video game before. As I walked through the ghost town, I don't know whether it was a combination of the out-of-place textures and the atmosphere and the haunting melody of the once peaceful and soothing song being butchered and distorted, but I was literally on the verge of tears and I had no idea why. I hardly ever cry. Something had gripped me here, and this powerful sense of depression that was both foreign and crippling.
This is rough. This is super freaky.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are
Skin's
like
crawling.
5 parts to this thing, and this is only the first chapter.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I tried leaving Clocktown, but every time I attempted to zone out, the screen would fade to black, and I would just zone into another part of Clocktown. I tried playing my ocarina. I wanted to escape, and I did not want to be here. But every time I played the Song of Time or Song of Soaring, it would only say, "Your notes echo far, but nothing happens." By this point, it was obvious the game didn't want me to leave, but it had no idea why it was keeping me here.
Weird.
I didn't want to go inside the buildings. I felt that I would be too vulnerable there to whatever I was terrified of. I don't know why, but I came up with the idea that maybe if I drowned myself at the laundry pool, I could spawn somewhere else and leave this place. As I zoned in and ran towards the pool, that's when it happened. Link grabbed his head, and the screen flashed for a brief moment of the Happy Mask salesman smiling at me. Not Link. Me with the Skull Kid scream playing in the background, and when the screen returned, I was staring at the Link statue from playing the song Elegy of Emptiness. I screamed as the thing just stared back at me with that haunting facial expression. I turned around and ran out and back into South Clocktown, and to my horror, that statue followed me in the only way I can compare... That statue followed me, and the only way I can compare this is like the Weeping Angels from Doctor Who. Which context is like... It's like Boo's in Mario.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it won't follow you when you look at it.
That's weird.
Every so often, at random intervals, the animation would play of the statue appearing behind me. It was like the thing was chasing me, or... I don't even want to say it. Haunting me.
No.
By this point, I was on the verge of hysterics, but not even once did the thought of turning off the console occur to me. I don't know why, I was so wrapped up in it. The terror felt all so real. I tried to shake the statue, but it would literally appear right behind me every single time. Link started to begin to make weird animations I had never ever seen him do before. He would flail his arms around or spasm randomly, and the screen would cut to the Happy Mask salesman smiling again for a brief moment before I was face to face with that statue again. I ended up running into the Swordmaster's dojo and ran to the back. I don't know why, but in my panic, I just wanted some kind of assurance that I'm not alone here. To my dismay, I found no one. But as I turned to leave, the statue cornered me in the cubby in the back. I tried attacking the statue with my sword, but to no avail. Confused and backing into a corner, I just stared at the statue, waiting for it to kill me. Suddenly, the screen flashed again to the Happy Mask salesman, and Link turned to face my screen, standing upright mirroring the statue, looking at me along with his copy, literally staring at me. Whatever was left of the fourth wall was completely shattered, while I ran out of the dojo terrified. Suddenly, the game warped me to an underground tunnel, and the reverse Song of Healing queued up again as I was given a brief moment of rest before the statue started appearing behind me again, this time aggressively. I could only take a few steps before it would summon behind me again. I hurriedly made my way out of the tunnel and appeared in Southern Clocktown. As I ran aimlessly in a sheer panic, suddenly a Redead screamed and the screen faded to black as Dawn of a New Day and blank appeared again. And Redeads in the game are like zombies that attack you.
Gotcha.
The screen faded in, and I was standing on top of Clock Tower with Skull Kid hovering over me again, silent. I looked up, and the moon was back, looming just meters above my head. But the Skull Kid just stared at me hauntingly with that mask. A new song was playing. The Stone Tower Temple theme played in reverse. In some sort of desperate attempt, I equipped my bow and fired off a shot at the Skull Kid. And it actually hit him, and he played an animation of him reeling back. I fired again, and on the third arrow, a text box appeared saying, "That won't do you any good, hee hee."
Ooh, no.
And I was picked up off the ground, levitated upwards on my back, and then Link screamed as he burst into flames, instantly killing him.
Jeez.
I jumped when this happened. I had never seen this move used by anyone in the game, and Skull Kid himself didn't have any moves. As the death screen played, my lifeless body still burning, the Skull Kid laughed and the screen faded to black. only to have me reappear in the same place. I decided to charge him, but the same thing happened. Link's body was lifted off the ground by some unknown force, and he immediately burst into flames again, killing him. This time during the death screen, the faint sounds of the reverse song of healing could be heard. On my third and final try, I noticed that there was no music playing this time. That all there was the eerie silence. I remembered that in the original encounter with the Skull Kid, you were supposed to use the ocarina to either travel back in time or summon the giants. I attempted to play the song in time, but before I could hit the last note, Link's body once again horrifically exploded into flames and he died. As the death screen neared its end, it began to chug, as if the cartridge was trying to process a lot of something. When the screen came to, it was the same scene as the first 3 times, except this time Link was lying on the ground, dead, in a position I had never seen in the game before. His head tilted towards the camera with the Skull Kid floating above him. I couldn't move, I couldn't press any buttons. All I could do is just stare at Link's dead body. After around 30 seconds of this, the game simply fades out with the message, "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" before kicking you out to the title screen.
Weird.
Upon getting back to the title screen and starting again, I noticed my save file was no longer there. Instead of Link, it was replaced with "Your turn." Your turn had 3 hearts, 0 masks, and no items. I selected Your Turn, and immediately when I did, I was returned to the clock tower rooftop scene of my Link dead and the Skull Kid hovering over, with the Skull Kids laughing, looping again and again. I quickly hit the reset button, and when the game booted up again, there was one more save file added below Your Turn, entitled Ben.
Cool. Of course.
Right.
Ben's save file is right back where it was before I deleted it, at the Stone Tower Temple with the moon almost crashing. I turned the game off at that point. I'm not superstitious, but this is way too messed up even for me. I haven't played it at all today. Hell, I didn't even get any sleep last night. I kept hearing the reverse Song of Healing music in my head, and just remembering the sense of dread I felt exploring Clocktown. I drove back to the old man's house today to ask him some questions with a buddy of mine. No way I was going there alone. Only to find that there's a for sale sign in the front yard, and when I rang the door, no one was home. So now I'm back here writing down the rest of my thoughts and recording what happened. Sorry if some of this has grammatical errors and whatnot. I'm running on no sleep here. I'm terrified of this game, even more so now that I relived it a second time writing this all down. But I feel like there's still more to it than meets the eye, and there's something calling to me to investigate this further. I think Ben is something in this equation, but I don't know what. And if I could get a hold of that old man, then I would be able to find some answers. I need another day or so to recuperate before tackling this game again. It's already taken a toll on my sanity, I feel like, but next time I do this, I'm going to be recording my footage all the way through. The idea to record only came to me towards the end, and there's footage of this included. The idea to record only came to me towards the end, so you see the last few minutes of what I saw, including Skull Kid and the elegy statue, but it's on YouTube here. And then he links it. And let me pull it up here in a second.
Okay.
I'm going to stay in this thread for a little while longer before I fall asleep to answer any questions you guys might have, or hopefully listen to your ideas or theories that help me shed some light into this, or maybe things I should try to do. But I think I'm going to play Ben's file tomorrow to see what happens. Maybe I was supposed to do that all along. I don't believe in paranormal stuff, but this is a little messed up. But maybe this Ben guy is just a really good hacker/programmer. I don't want to think about alternatives if he isn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
That's the end of the copy/paste. I'm hoping that maybe this is some kind of running gag developers had, and that other people have gotten gag or hacked copies of the game like this. This just really scares me. And that was chapter 1 of Ben Drown. And we can watch a video, which we can link in the description below.
Ooh.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, I don't like that one bit. Oh.
Ugh. Is that Skull Kid?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
So
And that's the moon that looms over.
That's cool.
yeah, it's horrifying. No. Okay, so what's the likelihood that this whole story is fake and this guy went through all the trouble to add all this stuff into the video game? Because how hard would that be?
Not hard. I mean,
Yeah, at this point, I mean, it's
I mean, music's one thing, but like,
it's super jacked up.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I don't know, man. This is hella creepy. This is like super like creepypasta fuel for sure.
oh yeah,
Sure.
100%.
Yeah, I think this is a wildly cool story, but
Yeah.
I think it is 100% fake.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Like all this stuff can easily be manipulated.
You
think
with
so?
ROM hacks.
Oh,
and-
okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because there's people that like where you guys like making movies.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Some people really like modding old games.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like versions that, James Nim. I mean, this isn't modding or anything, but
Mhm.
James Nim, shout out, love you, baby boy. He has a huge Mojin build, which is essentially just like a fighting game that
Yeah.
he can just go in and grab sprites that
Oh, yeah,
people
that's
have
right,
made,
yeah.
and he's got like 500 characters on it, and that's just people building sprites and
Mhm.
taking sprites from old video games, and yeah, you could do that.
Yeah. Okay. See, I don't know anything about that really.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Real spooky.
Shows the bin. This does make me want to play it though. That's cool.
You'd play this version of it?
This version, no.
Yeah.
Because at this point, it's like, oh, this is broken. This
Yeah,
I just want to
yeah.
play the game.
Yeah, yeah. I'd be too spooked to play this game after watching this.
Mm-hmm.
Heck no.
Yeah.
He's just stuck in a loop.
Mhm.
Yeah, dude. If I got this game and this happened, I'd be like, oh, cool. It's garbage. I throw it in the
Burn it.
garbage
Yeah.
now.
Oh, and look, Ben's name is back. Yo!
Yep.
Yeah.
Holy moly!
That is
So-
down. Part 1, chapter 1.
Yeah.
So do you know what happens in the rest of it? Do you know how it ends?
No, I think what I read tonight is like the most I've read of it. And
Yeah.
I know a little bit about the creepy videos and all that.
Gotcha.
And there have been like this thing like super popular.
Yeah.
There's been references to it in other video games. There is a video game called Spooky's Mansion of Jump Scares or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a first person game, and you just walk through corridors and there'd be random jump scares. Like that's
Gotcha.
the
That's
gimmick of
the
the
game.
game. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's supposedly 1,000 rooms of that, and the further you get in the game, there's creatures like that'll actually like attack you and chase you.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is based on Ben's Drown, and it's the creepy mask salesman, and it does the thing in the creepypasta where it'll like pop up behind you, and when you like turn around to look at it, it'll stop. So that's why you have to keep running and like keep looking at it, so
Yeah.
like, it doesn't or grab you or whatever.
No, I don't like that.
That's cool.
That's
Yeah.
horrifying.
Yeah.
I love this kind of stuff. I think it's so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Creepypastas are fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I mean, that's where like Slender Man was born.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, exactly.
It's so cool.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously.
It's a wild world
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. But video games are neat. They've
Yeah.
they've got a mind of their own, and then stuff like this
They definitely
happens.
are their own thing
Mm.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's It's really cool. I can't think of any more like weird stuff off the top of my head other than like, you know, stuff that developers have put in games.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like
There's another video game related creepypasta. It's called, it's a boring name, NES Godzilla, but essentially the story is this guy, he plays a old like copy of Godzilla Destroy All Monsters for the NES.
mm-hmm.
And he goes along, plays the game, and like weird stuff happens. Like there's like random sprites that weren't in the game before, and there's like a demon that lives in the game and torments him or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, it's just very it's just like the idea of creepypastas and old video games and stuff like that. It's like 100% just like people creating original assets and putting them in like ROM hacking, like with Ben Drown, like putting this stuff in already existing games and like creating something new with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
like,
cool.
Like you said, like what we do with films is what people do with video games.
Yeah.
Where
People do really cool stuff with
Yeah.
video. One of my favorite video games is one of my favorite video game series is Metal Gear, like Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
Well, in the third one, they did this really cool thing where there was this boss. I can't remember what his name is
I
because
think
it's
it's
been so
the
long.
fear.
Yeah.
Where you go down the river.
No. I'm sorry, not the fear. And
end?
it wasn't in 3. It was
Oh.
in. I think it was in. Oh God.
Is it Psycho Manus in the first one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Psycho Manus, Cary, I don't think you've not played these, right?
Mm-mm.
So Psycho Manus, his boss fights were always super weird, and it happened in 4 too, and on PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
So he was like this psychic being,
Mm.
and you would start the boss fight, and there was like the first time you fight him, he's just like, you can't imagine my power.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
like he's talking to the person who's playing the game,
Yeah.
not so much Snake,
Mm.
who's the character that you play.
Mm.
And it tells you to set your controller down. And you're like, all right. So you set it on the table, and he's like, I'll move your controller left. And then your controller, because of the rumble on the right,
Yeah.
moves to the left.
Mm.
And then it moves to the right. And then he starts telling you all the games that you're playing and the progress that you're at. Because the
What?
game reads your memory card.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's the coolest
wow.
thing.
And there was a really cool way to
That's
like
crazy.
almost all the bosses in the early Metal Gears, like they would all have really easy ways to kill them if you knew what those
Yeah.
ways were.
Yeah.
And Psycho Manus was you unplug the controller from slot 1 and you put it into 2,
No
and
way.
every button that you pressed did damage to him. So
Yeah.
that's how you killed him. The fear from 3,
Wow.
Yeah.
I've actually never done that boss fight because
really?
you can kill him before his his fight.
The end. It's the old guy. Yeah.
Yeah, because in the game you find binoculars and like what you're like on comms, and it's like, oh, there's the fear, and you can pull out your binoculars. But if you find the sniper rifle before, you can use your sniper rifle instead, and then you just shoot him in the head, and then you never do that boss fight. There's like so many just ways to circumvent it, but the Psycho Mantis fight in 4 was the same sort of thing. It was so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, there's fun, cool little ways, I mean, to do cool, creepy things in video games, and
I
people have been
think
doing it forever.
There's another thing Psycho Manus does. He'll simulate your screen turning off, so it'll just go black. And it'll show like the video like in the sign in the corner, like old
Yep.
TVs.
Mhm.
Like
Video
the-
1.
Yeah, exactly. It would do that, and like it would simulate, oh, your game turned off, or
That's
like,
crazy.
Yeah, and another thing
That's
in
awesome.
Metal Gear Solid 3, there's a boss where in the game you don't have to kill every soldier. You can just like tranquilize them, and they'll you'll knock them out.
Mhm.
But if you kill him, there's a certain boss who he's like a ghost, and you'll walk down this river, and every
Oh, yeah.
NPC you killed or every soldier you killed will attack you on that river.
Yeah.
So if you don't kill anybody in the game, you won't get attacked by ghosts.
Mm.
But if you like kill all the bosses, all of the soldiers, whatever, it'll like every time you walk down that river, you'll just get attacked by all these ghosts.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That game
Yeah.
rules. Those games rule.
Yeah.
But
Those
yeah.
games roll. Horror games are dope.
Wow. What a bonkers episode, guys. That was a really spooky story. I need to know what else happens in that story. Like, what is there resolve?
And you can. I mean, I'm curious too because I never finished it, but I
Yeah.
do know it is in 5 parts, 5 chapters, and there's I think video attached with each chapter, so there's a
that's cool.
resolution. So
Okay.
Well, there's
I'll have to
tons of
research
other
that.
like cool, spooky creepypasta stuff. Maybe we can do more
I would
Just
love to branch
Yeah.
out.
every
dude.
now and then.
Yeah,
you
sprinkle
know,
it in
just like
here and there.
like Bin Drown Part 2, and
Yeah.
like we'll find some more
For sure.
some more
That's a
Reddit
good
spooky
idea.
stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like video game
Yeah.
type stuff. But yeah,
because that is a rich well, because I mean, there's a lot of horror game stuff too. Like, or like we just like briefly talk about horror games, like whatever. Because like to me, horror movies don't scare me, but horror games do, because there's just a level of like immersiveness with video
Yeah.
games when
Yeah,
you play
dude.
horror video games.
bro, have you ever played The Forest?
No.
That game
Mm-mm.
honks, dude.
Really?
It's oh my god, it scares the crap out of me,
Mhm.
man. Yeah, you crash land on an island with your
Mhm.
son,
Oh no.
and you get knocked out, and then you wake up and you see this like pretty much naked dude, and all like he's painted red,
Mm-hmm.
and he has your son by the hand, and then you fall back asleep, you
Mhm.
pass back out, and then you wake up, and then that's where the game starts.
Yeah.
And then it's a survival game
Yeah.
where you just have to build like a fortress
Mhm.
essentially,
Wow.
and like you like build weapons. Like you start with literally nothing
Yeah.
other than what's on this plane.
Mm.
So you like have to go, you have to hunt, you have to build, you have to cut down trees, you have to
Mhm.
build huts and like build places for you to sleep,
Yeah.
and you have to traverse through these tunnels, and it's like these giant tunnel systems that go through the entire map. And in these tunnels is where you find like new weapons, because like you start to figure out like there's something going on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's cannibals that live on the island,
Mm.
and the longer you're on the island, the harder the game gets, because
really?
the cannibals, they have like scouting routes,
Mm.
so they'll find where you live,
Mm.
and then they will attack you. And it starts out, and then it's just like dudes and ladies, and you're like, oh, this is rough, but I guess I'm gonna have to kill you.
Yeah.
And then they start to change, where there's still like the base ones, but then there's like juggernauts, where they're like, but they look like fused together meat
Ooh.
bodies.
Oh.
And there's one that's like completely made out of legs, and they're like spiders, and they just,
Ooh.
dude, it gets
Nope, don't like that.
super rough.
Called The Forest.
It's called The Forest.
Yikes.
It's a fantastic game,
Mm.
but
Mm.
they have it on VR, and I want to
Nope.
play it so
Absolutely.
bad,
Absolutely
dude.
not.
Dude,
So
let's do it.
It's
Put it on the
so
channel.
good, dude. It's so
Freaking out
good.
VR.
Come on, let's do it.
Dude, yeah.
That'd be so much
Yeah.
fun.
I've tried doing horror games in VR, and like I've done like those kitschy like App Store horror games in VR, and like that stuff scares me. Like I've
Really?
never done like a legit like horror game. Like I know you play Resident Evil 4 in VR,
Yeah.
and I kind of want to do that because I love that game.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always said my first VR experience is going to be zombies, so
Yeah.
I've been holding off for that. I did break my promise though, and then a couple of years ago I played like some VR horror game, but it was like a, I don't know, it was like a evil carnival type of thing where you like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
ride this roller coaster through this,
Yeah,
whatever.
It's
I
it's
think you
based-
should-
Until Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think it was Until Dawn. or
No, they
something
made
else.
it like a
Yeah.
spin-off Until Dawn. Like
Oh.
thing,
Mhm.
where it
Might have
uses the
been
same
it.
characters, but you're on a roller coaster and you shoot.
And it's
I
at
think
a
that's what it
carnival.
was.
Yeah.
I think that's
because
what it was.
I've played it too. It's really fun.
Yeah,
but
it
was
it's
fun.
like
It was spooky.
it's early second wave VR
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
stuff. The first one I played was an archery game, and man, it was like a
Mm.
tower defense game. I had a blast.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge dork, so I was just
Yeah.
like, I'm Legolas, So,
That's great.
but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, we'll have to come back to video games and horror games
for sure.
and all that.
Yeah, because there's a ton of content out there,
Mm.
and just the concept alone of ghosts being in video games is spooky as heck.
Yeah.
So I would like to tell you guys something spooky that happened to me last night.
Oh yeah.
So Sarah and I were hanging out last night after the boy went to bed, and we stayed up kind of late. At this point, we were eating cereal and watching the Monsters movie at 2 in the morning. I still haven't finished it yet.
Oh.
It's way different than you'd expect.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask Sarah how she feels about it. I think it's fun. I think it's fun and cute. Yeah, she watched the Monsters growing up,
gotcha.
and I
great.
don't
So
think
did
I've
I.
ever seen
Well,
seen an episode of the Monsters, but I mean, I've enjoyed it. I think like the lighting and the like stylistically, it's really cool. That Rob Zombie went an interesting way with like the editing per se, but also with like the story of how Ed Munster met Lily, yeah. But it was cute. But we're watching it, and then our dog Patty, she's a Pekingese. She's an old gal. She's about 8 or 9 years old. She's got 2 bad legs, 2 bad eyes, breathing problems, collapsing trachea, where she'll like do this like weird coughing thing, and then like it seems like she like coughs something up, but like nothing ever comes up, and then she's like fine. But like last year, about a year ago exactly, she was on death's doorstep, and I revived her by literally like bottle feeding her for a week and giving her medicine, and we were certain that she was going to die, but I bought her who knows how much longer. But last night she starts doing this coughing thing, and it sounded a little different, like there was something like caught like in her like nasal passage or something like that. And she has like real bad health issues, where she has a hernia in her stomach cavity, where her like intestines like they are coming up through, I don't know, some weird part of her stomach where like pushes on one of her lungs. And so one of her lungs just doesn't work at all. So she's only working on one lung. And so she starts doing this coughing thing. It sounds like she's suffocating. This is at 2 in the morning, and Sarah and I were just eating cereal, and we're like, oh crap, what's going on with her? And so we like get on the floor with her, and I was like kind of tapping her on her back. Maybe she was like choking on something, and I could like knock it loose or something. And nothing happened, and she kept doing this weird coughing thing. And I don't know, instinctively, I was like, well, maybe she has allergies, so she's on allergy medicine. So instinctively, like I just like put my mouth over her nose and just blew in to maybe like knock some like mucus loose or something like that, and it didn't do anything. I was like, crap.
Yeah.
And Sarah's like, you have to take her to the vet right now. And I was like, the only vet open is Blue Pearl, it's like an overnight emergency vet clinic.
Also Neil. But
Neil? Okay, I don't know who that is.
It's in Bethany.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, Blue Pearl is just 2 miles away. So I hopped in the car, 2 in the morning. Sarah said basically goodbye to Patty, thinking that it was the last time she'd see her alive.
Yeah.
And she was bawling as I was leaving, because like we seriously thought that she was gonna die before I even got to the vet hospital. And so I pull up and I park at the main event parking lot, and then like I run over to Blue Pearl, and on like this last ditch effort, I'm like, okay, I feel like this is like, I don't know, like mucus like stuck in her nose. I do think that she was suffocating actually, because she wasn't breathing, but she was like, you can hear that she was like trying to get like any breaths that she could. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like blow through her nose to see if I can knock whatever's in that loose. And I did, and I was in the parking lot about to walk into the door, and then like I heard her like spit something up. And then like I put her on the ground and just kind of let her like walk around, and then she was walking around normal.
She was like, whew.
That's what it sounded like. It was like a big, like, she got a breath of fresh air. I was like, okay, so maybe everything's okay. I don't have to pay $400 for this emergency vet right now for them to tell me like, oh well, she's dead. Here you go.
Sir, you have an old dog.
Yeah, exactly. So the amount of times we've taken her to the vet, and they all tell us the same thing every time. Like, man, why do I keep bringing her back here? But I was like, well, maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe there's something else wrong with her. Maybe I don't know exactly, but maybe it wasn't too bad. But then I was like, she's probably gonna die tonight. But she started walking around the parking lot normal, and I was just like, okay. I called Sarah. I was like, hey, she seems normal. She sounds like she like coughed something up. We're gonna hang out here in the parking lot for 10 minutes to make sure that she's good before I go home. And then she's like, oh, thank God. And so I hop back in the car, and we're hanging out, and then she's completely fine. I was like, sweet. I'm gonna go back home. And I'm heading home, pull into my parking or pull into on Britain Drive over here. We'll edit that out. And
Really
on
good.
the telephone line, an owl just in the middle of the street, and I stop and I look at it, and it turns its head and looks at me. And I just stop and stare at it for a second, and I was like, oh god. And I just went home, and I don't know what that owl meant.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was messing with me, like, hey, I almost killed your dog tonight. You're lucky, you got away tonight.
Or
I'm coming.
Like, this is the last.
Or this is the end. Like, prepare.
Yeah.
Like it could be that.
Yeah.
Or alas, it could just be an owl.
Or just an owl.
But I've never seen an owl in my neighborhood.
Really?
Not where I live now.
I haven't seen one.
Yeah, and it wasn't hooting or anything. It was just sitting there. And then it turned its head and looked at me. I was like, wow.
No.
How much more weird can this not get? Watching Rob Zombie's The Munsters.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Then go to the ER at 2 in the morning, and then drive home and see an owl just staring right at me. I was like, wow.
That's crazy.
I personally, I think that it was a close call with death, and I think that I bought, Patty a little bit more time.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord, because I'm not ready for her to go yet, and you pet owners will understand that, because you love your pets so much, you'll do anything for them.
Yeah, I mean, I lost my favorite cat ever, maybe 4 months ago.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah.
And it was at it was 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I drove to Neil, and
Dang,
it
dude.
sucked. It was not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's truly awful. So,
but dude, I haven't seen owls around here.
it's very strange.
We have a friend possum that shows up every night, and
we
he eats
get that
cat
too.
food off of our front porch.
Cool.
He's very sweet.
Yeah.
But no owls.
Yeah, but the way that it turned its head and looked at me, there's
Just looked at you.
no mistake that it was an owl.
There's nobody else
For
on the
sure.
road.
No one.
Just
No, I
looked
just
at
parked in the middle of the
you,
street, and
yeah.
I just stared at it, and it stared at me.
Yeah.
I really need to go home and smudge and cedar my house.
Yeah.
My dad told me the ancient Kyle way, Indian way to ward off owls is that you give them an offering. You go and put, if they're in the tree, you go and put bread at the base of the tree.
Yeah.
And you go in and you pray that it takes your offering and it goes away.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I mean, it wasn't right outside my house by any means, but I definitely feel like I should, pray and smoke and cedar the house.
Yeah.
Just to
Maybe
ward
leave
away any
something
bad
out,
energy,
just
any
to-
bad spirits and stuff like that. So, I don't know. Very strange. Very eerie. And I didn't like it. So, yeah. I don't know. That's my spooky story for the night. And I don't know if we have anything else for this episode, Dylan. Anything to...
Probably not, other than, I'm excited to talk more about spooky video games from time to time.
Yeah. I'll have you on the next spooky video game
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
I
And
guess.
thanks for sharing that video. That was,
Oh yeah, dude,
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
creepy. Man.
Yeah, for sure.
When I saw
It
it, I
made me
mean,
question
like I said,
everything, honestly.
I know. And then you could just get into giant conversations about what is being alive.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like,
Are
dude,
we
Yeah.
NPCs
Are
right
we
now?
in a simulation?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a whole other thing.
it's not fun.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime media makes you question what your reality is, it's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Matrix did it, and
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
one of the coolest things to do it,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. I love weird little Easter eggs and stuff like that in
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
There's a lot in Doom. Those
Yeah.
are all really cool.
Oh,
but
yeah.
there's weird stuff tucked away in the internet, stuff like what we watched and stuff
Yeah.
like creepypastas and stuff. I mean, it's a lot of it is really cool. I mean, there's
Yeah.
some stuff that's okay, this is blatantly dumb, and
Yeah, yeah,
somebody's
yeah.
just having a laugh. But
Yeah.
then there is some stuff where it's I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. This might be
For
true.
sure.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, right on. I think that's going to do it for this episode.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Warren, sign us off.
Well, thank you for tuning in. If you like the show, please rate and review us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, or your podcast app of choice. You can find us on Instagram at The Skull Crawlers and on Twitter at underscore Skull Crawlers, and YouTube by searching for The Skull Crawlers Movie Club or going to bit.ly/Skull Crawlers. And as always, sleep with one eye open because you never know who's watching.
And thanks for wearing your brown pants, Dylan. What's yours?
Yeah, Dylan, this is your time chime.
Oh, no, that's not fair. What?
Sign us off.
Thank you for suspending disbelief.
Good night.
Cool. That was a lot of fun.